Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Fadila. I am one of a student at English Department of Literature in Pamela University. Today I'm going to share with you a lesson about language variation which I've got from my social linguistics class. This presentation will be based on my own knowledge and I'm going to be more focused on the regional and social variation of language. To facilitate our today's lesson, I already done a mind mapping and this is the result as you can see on your screen. This is the mind map for the regional and social variation of language. Let's start our today's lesson by finding out what language variation is. Well, language variation is a variety of language. It means that language is having a variation. It's not only one. It's not only English. It's not only French. It's not only Indonesian. There are many kind of language that is exist in this world. So what are the factors that can cause this variation? Well, actually there are so many factors that can cause a language to be having a variation, but we are going to be more focused on the regional and social factors, how they can cause the language to be having a variation. Well, we're going to be start with the regional variation first. Well, a regional variation is a variety of a language related to the regional aspect. It means that a regional aspect could cause a language to be having a variation. What we meant by the regional aspect in here is place and time. For example, past and present time. People in a past and a present time could be having two different language. I mean, they could use a different language because of the different time, and also two people in two different countries. They could be having a two different language. So there are two different variation or variety of language. So that's the definition of the regional variation. And regional variation fall into four categories. The first one is international varieties. International varieties will show you how different part of the world use a same language differently. It means that a language could be used by few countries but in a different way. For example, English being used by America and England, but they are using a different kind of English. The England use the British English and the American use the American English. So that's what we meant by the international varieties, and the difference, or it could be having a variety because of some difference. So the difference could be a pronunciation difference. It could be a grammar difference or a vocabulary difference. The pronunciation difference, for example, people in New Zealand will say that to call their father, but uh, because of the pronunciation that, the British people will misunderstanding them by with saying not alive anymore. So it's that. So the person is that. It's because the British people will call their father that, not that. So it's kind of like a different pronunciation, a different variety of language. The next one is grammar difference. The grammar difference appear a lot in both um, American and British. So, for example, American people will say, "Did you eat your food?" While the British people will say, "Have you eaten your food?" So, this is two different variation of language. I mean, two different grammar. The different grammar that cause a different language. So yeah, and we're going to go to the vocabulary difference. For example, People in New Zealand will say solo parents, while people in British will say single parents. So this is the example for the vocabulary difference. They have different vocabulary that cause them having a different language because the New Zealand say solo and the British say single. So this is a different categories, a different vocabulary, and a different language. That's the international varieties. And now we are going to go to the isoglosses. Well, isoglosses, the definition of isoglosses is a line on a map that marks the boundary between areas where language features are different. Well, it means that um, a place, two place which is having the boundary by the line on a map could be having a different language because of the different areas. So the example and and the isoglossis could be seen or uh, clearly visible by the difference of the lexical element. For example, the word. So how to say cook and in New York and Montana is different because they are having the boundary line. So they are saying it in different way. People in New York will say soda to say Coke, and people in Montana will say pop to say Coke. So this is a different language. I mean a different word. They pronounce different word. They the vocabulary or the word is different because of the line on a map that mark their boundaries. That's what we call as a isoglossis. So the next one is cross-continental varieties. Well, cross-continental varieties is a particular language that used by people that is living nearby. So they are having much similarities of the language. For example, Chinese and Cantonese. That are two different language, but mostly similar because they live in a in a very near area like that. And the last one for the regional variation is the intranational and intracontinental variation. Well, intracon intracontinental or international variation is is a a varieties that could indicate people people's country. For example, uh, they are speaking English, but uh, they are using a different type of English. For example, American English or British English or Australian English. When they are using that language, they will show their indication air as the person from a country. So that is what we call intranational or intercontinental variation. Now let's go to the social variation. Well, social variation is a variety of a language related to the social aspect of the speaker. It means that a social aspect could cause a language to be having a variation. Social variation falls into two. The first one is social dialect, and the second one is social classes dialect. Social dialect falls into two categories. The first one is standard English, and the second one is cast dialects. Well, the standard English is English that is spoken with many different dialects. For example, um, people in Nigeria will speak in English. They speak in English, but in different kind of dialect. Also, um, Indian English or American English or British English. They are using a different standard English, different dialect for English for English. And we have the Casa dialect. Casa dialect is appear or occur because of the grouping of some case. I mean, a caste system or a grouping of people that is different from the the social status. For example, in India they have Brahmin or Kshatriya. They will use different type of language. They are having different type of language. This is what we call as a language variation because they are speaking to the different language. So this is a variety of language. And the second categories is the social classes a dialect. Social classes a dialect is morely like um, who are you in a social in a society. So social position can be determined by so many factors such as occupation or education. I mean your educational background. Uh, are you an educated are you a well educated person or not? It will cause you using a different type of language. Social classes dialects could be visible by the difference of vocabulary and pronunciation. For example, in 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 England, they are they are they are not you they are uh, the upper class will say lavatory and the lower class will say toilet. The upper class will say a relation. The lower class will say relatives. The Another example is the upper class will say a sitting room, while the lower class will say lunch. So this is a different different vocabulary that is appear in because of different classes. And the pronunciation difference, this is also happened because of the social classes like rich person, lower and high class person. So the in New York City, people which is living or having the higher status, higher class of social status will say less h sound. So they are not often to say h sound. They are saying house, not house. They are saying house, not house. While the lower will say h or use h more much than the upper class people. So they are saying house and house. The higher say how house and the lower say house. That's what we meant by the pronunciation difference related to the social classes dialects. Now look at we are going to look at the difference between the two. So original variation is is a different is a different language that is the first point is different in use a language due to the geographical discrepancies. It means that regional variation is a language variety that that happen because of the geographical different the discrepancies like that. And Of course, the geographical barriers is important, and distance is very important for the regional variation. Also, the distinction is clear cut, and it is not easily influenced by the external factors, because the factors that can cause the differences is just the regional vectors. I mean, the geographical factors, and the social variation is different. Is a different language that happen because of a social class, a social aspect, not a geographical aspect or regional aspect. And the social barriers, of course, is the most important, while the distance is not too important for the social variation. And the distinction is not clear cut, and it can be influenced by external factors. So the variation could be happen because of many factors different than the regional variation. The regional variation is not easily influenced because it's only get an effect from the original aspect. So yeah, that's all for today. That's all for the regional variation and social variation of language. I hope you guys can learn something from this. I'm so sorry if I explain it with a, a lot of mistakes. So yeah, I think that's all. Thank you for today. Thank you for watching. Bye.